My boyfriend had a friend group, 3 guys and 1 girl. Before I ever met them, he gave me a warning that I still remember word for word. If you ever do anything to upset that girl, we're over immediately. I nodded, pretending to take it lightly, but inside I was intrigued. Every group has that one perfect girl, the one everyone protects, the one no one dares to question, and I've never been the type to worship someone like that. Derek looked at me with that serious protective expression that made my roommates roll their eyes whenever I mentioned him. I mean it, Sarah. Emily isn't just a friend. She's the most important person in my life. If you want to be with me, you'll respect her. You'll look out for her. I smiled sweetly, keeping my tone calm. Of course, your friends are my friends. I'm sure Emily and I will get along just fine. When I told my roommates about that little warning, they lost it. You're the prettiest girl on campus, one of them snapped. And you're letting some guy tell you to play nice with another girl like she's royalty? You'll regret it. They stormed out, fuming. I didn't bother arguing. Instead, I fixed my hair, grabbed Derek by the arm, and said with a smile, "Come on, we don't want to keep your friends waiting." When we walked into the cafe, I saw her instantly, Emily. She was sitting right in the center of the table wearing a white dress, and a smile so innocent, it almost looked rehearsed. 2 guys were sitting on either side of her, both handsome, both looking way too comfortable around her. That was all I needed to see. She was the sun and they were her orbit. I'd expected her to be distant or arrogant, but instead she jumped up and ran toward me, grabbing my hands like we were best friends already. "You must be Derek's girlfriend. You're gorgeous." "Guys, this is Sarah." Her enthusiasm was almost too much, but the flicker in her eyes gave her away. She was sizing me up. Ryan, the one with glasses, gave me a quick handshake and forced smile. James, the tall one with the buzz cut, didn't even try to hide his dislike. I met both their eyes and smiled wider. Emily still had my hands in hers, her voice as bright as her fake little halo. "So what were you thinking falling for Derek? He's such a mess." Derek laughed and ruffled her hair like she was a kid. "Don't tease. You're in one of your moods again." Then he took off his jacket and placed it over her chair. "You always get cold." The moment froze. Everyone went quiet. Emily tilted her head toward me with a small pout. "Aren't you jealous, Sarah?" "He's spoiling me right in front of you." Derek's expression tensed as if he was bracing for drama, but I just smiled, calm and polite. "Of course not. Derek told me you're like his little sister." "Now that I've met you, I totally get it. You're adorable." Her smile froze for just a second. The guys relaxed again, not realizing what had just happened. Emily recovered quickly, pretending to blush. "You're different from the others. Derek's exes always hated me. I tried to be their friend, but they were so cruel." I smiled, keeping my tone warm. "Maybe they just didn't know how sweet you are." Her eyes flickered again. Confusion, irritation, and something else. Then dinner arrived, and I could feel it, the tension building under Emily's perfect surface. Moments later, she gasped. A bit of soup had spilled across her white dress. Before I could even react, Derek shoved past me and grabbed a napkin. "Emily, are you okay?" James glared at me like I'd just confessed to a crime. I knew it. I knew she'd be trouble. Ryan crossed his arms. First day meeting her, and she's already accidentally hurting Emily. "Really?" Derek turned to me, his voice sharp. "Sarah, apologize to her." Now Emily buried her face in her hands, but I saw it. That small, smug smile behind her fingers. Most girls would have snapped, maybe even walked out, but not me. I let my eyes fill with tears, just enough to shimmer under the light. "I'm so sorry, Emily. I didn't see you when I reached for the soup. I swear it was an accident." My voice trembled just right. "I really like all of you. I was just so nervous. I'd never heard anyone, especially you." Emily froze, caught off guard. Her little performance had just been outplayed. "Of course," she said finally, forcing a shaky laugh. "Don't blame Sarah, guys. She didn't mean it." Derek looked between us, unsure of what to believe. He hugged me awkwardly, guilt flashing in his eyes. But before he could say anything, Emily clapped her hands. "Okay, let's just forget it and go swimming." Derek, you promised to teach me, remember? He hesitated. Yeah, sure. And just like that, everyone followed her lead again as if nothing had happened. I smiled to myself, quietly watching her walk ahead. She really thought she'd won, but she had no idea who she was dealing with. The pool area glowed under soft yellow lights. I stood near the edge, watching Emily giggle as she dipped her toes in the water. She wore a floral swimsuit, modest but perfectly chosen to make her look delicate. The kind of girl who always needed saving. The boys gathered around her, of course. Derek adjusted the straps of her swimsuit. James tossed her a towel and Ryan stood nearby, arms crossed, pretending not to watch her too closely. I'd seen this scene before. Different people, same energy. The perfect girl surrounded by her loyal guards. I slipped off my sandals and tied my hair into a ponytail. The sound made them all glance my way. Emily noticed first. Her smile faltered for just a second. Then she turned it into something sweet and innocent. Sarah, you came too, but do you even know how to swim? Not really, I said calmly. Maybe Derek can teach me. The air shifted. Derek froze, his hands still holding Emily's towel. Emily tilted her head, pretending to think. Oh, but he promised me first. Remember, Derek, you said you'd help me practice tonight. Her voice was light, but her eyes were sharp. Derek hesitated. Right, I did promise. Just give me a bit, okay? Of course, I said, smiling. I'll manage. The water was cool as I stepped in, goosebumps rising on my skin. I didn't miss the way the other guys looked, especially Derek. He was trying not to stare, but he failed miserably. Emily noticed too. She let out a playful shriek, grabbing Derek's arm dramatically as if she'd seen a bug. Derek, I'm scared, don't let go. He steadied her, muttering something about how she needed to relax. From where I stood, the sight was almost pathetic. I waded deeper into the pool, letting the water rise to my waist. The chlorine smell mixed with the night air felt strangely calming. I could hear Emily's exaggerated laughter behind me, punctuated by Derek's reassuring murmurs. Sarah, be careful, James called out suddenly. The deep end starts around there. I turned, giving him a grateful smile. Thanks for looking out for me. His expression softened just a fraction. Maybe he wasn't completely under Emily's spell after all. Ryan had moved closer to the edge, watching me with curiosity. You're really not scared. Most people who can't swim stay in the shallow end. I guess I like a challenge, I said lightly, keeping my movements slow and deliberate. The truth was, I'd been on my high school swim team. 4 years of competitive butterfly. But they didn't need to know that. Emily's voice cut through the conversation like a knife. Derek, I think I'm getting the hang of it. Watch this. She kicked off from the wall, her form deliberately clumsy, arms flailing just enough to look helpless but not enough to actually sink. Derek stayed right beside her, one hand hovering near her back. That's great, Em. Just remember to keep your chin up. I watched them for a moment, then dove smoothly under the water. The cool darkness was a relief. When I surfaced, I was closer to the deep end, my hair slicked back, water streaming down my face. All 3 guys were staring now. Even Derek had stopped paying attention to Emily. Whoa, Ryan said. I thought you said you couldn't swim. I said not really, I corrected, treading water effortlessly. I never said I couldn't stay afloat. Emily's smile had vanished completely. She was still clinging to Derek's arm, but he wasn't looking at her anymore. Sarah, that was actually pretty smooth, Derek said, and there was something in his voice. Pride, maybe, or attraction. Emily's grip tightened on his arm. I'm getting cold. Can we get out now? Already, we just got in, James said, confused. I think I'm done for tonight, Emily insisted, her voice taking on that fragile quality again. I'm not feeling well. Derek immediately shifted into protective mode. Of course, let me help you out. They climbed out of the pool together, Emily leaning on him more than necessary. She wrapped herself in the towel he'd brought, shivering dramatically. Ryan and James exchanged glances, clearly torn between staying and following. You guys stay, Emily said quickly. Derek can take care of me, I just need to change. She pulled him toward the changing rooms, leaving the rest of us in awkward silence. James was the first to speak. She gets like this sometimes. Sensitive, must be nice, I said quietly, having people who care that much. Ryan studied me for a moment. You're not what I expected. What did you expect? I don't know. Derek's exes were always. He trailed off, searching for the right word. Jealous, I offered. Competitive, James finished. With Emily. I pulled myself up to sit on the edge of the pool, letting my legs dangle in the water. Why would I compete with Derek's friend? That seems exhausting. Because she's always around, Ryan said bluntly. She's always been around, since freshman year of college. And the other girlfriends couldn't handle that, James shrugged. Emily tries to be nice, but Derek always chooses her in the end. It's just how it is. The honesty was surprising. Maybe they weren't as blind as I thought. Maybe they just didn't see any other option. Well, I said, swinging my legs back into the water, I'm not the jealous type. Before either could respond, Derek returned alone. His hair was damp, probably from Emily grabbing him. His expression was troubled. Hey, is Emily okay? I asked, concern coloring my voice. Yeah, she's fine. Just tired. He sat down beside me, close enough that our shoulders touched. Sorry about earlier at dinner. For what? For assuming you did it on purpose. The soup thing. I looked down at the rippling water. It really was an accident. I know. He took my hand underwater where no one could see. I should have believed you right away. This was the moment Emily would have wanted me to push, to make him choose, to force some kind of confrontation. Instead, I squeezed his hand gently. You were just looking out for your friend, I get it. His shoulders relaxed. You're amazing, you know that? Ryan made a gagging sound. Okay, we're still here, guys. Derek laughed and splashed him, and just like that, the tension broke. We stayed in the pool for another hour, talking about classes and plans for summer break. James told a story about their freshman year, and for the first time, I noticed Emily wasn't even mentioned. When we finally got out, Derek wrapped his towel around my shoulders. Cold, a little, I admitted. Come on, I'll drive you home. As we walked toward the parking lot, I caught a glimpse of movement near the changing rooms. Emily stood in the shadows, watching us. Her white dress had been replaced with jeans and a hoodie, her hair pulled back in a messy bun. For a second, our eyes met. Hers were calculating, reassessing. Mine were steady, unbothered. Then Derek called my name, and I turned away, letting him lead me to his car. The drive back to my dorm was quiet at first. Derek seemed lost in thought, one hand on the wheel, the other resting near mine. Can I ask you something? He said finally. Sure. Why are you so different from everyone else I've dated? I considered the question carefully. Maybe because I don't think loving someone means you have to own every part of them. He glanced at me, surprised. What do you mean? You have a life outside of me. Friends, history, inside jokes. That doesn't threaten me. Why would it? Most girls say that, he said slowly, but they don't really mean it. I'm not most girls. He pulled up in front of my building and turned off the engine. No, he agreed. You're really not. He kissed me then, soft and careful, like he was afraid I might break. When I finally went inside, my roommates were waiting up, sitting on our worn couch with expectant faces. So, Rachel demanded. How was meeting the perfect Emily? I kicked off my shoes and collapsed into the armchair. Interesting. That's it. Interesting. She's exactly what Derek said she was, I said carefully. Important to him. My other roommate, Jess, leaned forward. And you're okay with that? Why wouldn't I be? Because she's clearly in love with him, Rachel said flatly. I'd noticed that too, in the way Emily looked at Derek, in the possessive touch of her hand on his arm. But saying it out loud would make it real, would make it a problem I had to address. Even if she is, I said slowly, that's not really my business unless Derek feels the same way. And if he does, 3, then I'll know I was wasting my time. Jess shook her head. You're crazy calm about this. Or maybe I just know that panicking won't help. I stood up, stretching. I'm going to shower. Long night. As the hot water ran over me, washing away the chlorine and the tension, I thought about Emily's face when she'd watched us leave. She'd expected me to fail tonight. Expected me to get angry, to make a scene, to give Derek a reason to choose her over me. Instead, I'd done the opposite. I'd been understanding, supportive, unthreatening. And that, I suspected, scared her more than any jealous tantrum could. The next few weeks fell into a pattern. Derek and I would make plans, and Emily would somehow insert herself into them. Study date at the library. Emily needed help with her homework. Movie night. Emily was having a bad day and needed cheering up. Dinner off campus. Emily hadn't eaten all day and couldn't be alone. Each time, Derek would look at me apologetically, and each time, I'd smile and say it was fine. And it was fine, in a way. Because every time Emily crashed our plans, she revealed a little more of herself. The cracks in her perfect facade were starting to show. Like the time she accidentally spilled coffee on my laptop, then immediately burst into tears and offered to pay for it. Derek, of course, had comforted her while my files were corrupted. Or when she'd shown up at Derek's apartment at midnight, crying about a nightmare, wearing pajamas that looked suspiciously styled. I'd been there, studying for midterms, and Derek had asked me to leave so he could calm her down. I'd gathered my books without a word, kissed him on the cheek, and told Emily I hoped she felt better. The look on her face had been priceless. My roommates thought I was insane. "You're literally letting her walk all over you," Rachel said during one of our late-night talks. "Why don't you just tell Derek how messed up this is?" "Because that's what she wants," I explained. "She wants me to be the jealous girlfriend, the one who makes ultimatums." "Then Derek has to choose, and we all know who he'd pick." Jess frowned. "So what's your plan? Just take it forever?" "No," I said quietly. "I'm waiting." "For what?" "For her to make a mistake." And 3 weeks later she did. It was Derek's birthday. I'd planned everything carefully. Dinner at his favorite restaurant, a small gathering with close friends, and a gift I'd spent weeks putting together. A leather journal filled with photos and memories from our relationship. I'd specifically kept it small and intimate, just the core group. Derek, me, Ryan, James, and yes, Emily. The restaurant was perfect. Low lighting, good food, the kind of place where you could actually have a conversation. I'd arrived early to make sure everything was set up, the cake ordered, the decorations minimal but thoughtful. Emily walked in 15 minutes before Derek, wearing a red dress that was definitely too formal for the occasion. "Sarah," she air-kissed both my cheeks. "This is so sweet of you." "Derek's going to love it." "I hope so," I said, keeping my tone warm. She glanced around the private room I'd reserved. "It's kind of small, isn't it?" "For Derek's birthday. He said he wanted something low-key this year." "Did he?" Her eyebrows raised slightly. "That's funny." "He told me last week he wanted to do something big." Before I could respond, Ryan and James arrived, followed immediately by Derek. He looked genuinely happy when he saw the setup, pulling me into a hug. "This is perfect. Exactly what I wanted." Over his shoulder, I saw Emily's expression flicker. Dinner started well. The food was good, the conversation flowed easily, and Derek seemed relaxed in a way I hadn't seen in weeks. Then, halfway through the main course, Emily stood up. "Sorry, I need to take this," she said, holding up her phone even though I hadn't heard it ring. "It's important." She disappeared into the hallway and I thought nothing of it. 10 minutes passed. Then 15. Derek checked his phone, frowning. "I should make sure she's okay." "I'm sure she's fine," James said. "Probably just her mom." But Derek was already pushing back his chair. "I'll just check real quick." He left, and the three of us sat in awkward silence. Ryan finally spoke. "This is weird, right?" "Like it's his birthday dinner." "It's Emily," James said, as if that explained everything. "Yeah, but come on. Sarah put this whole thing together." I appreciated Ryan's defense, but I was more focused on watching the hallway. They'd been gone for almost 20 minutes when my phone buzzed. A text from Derek. "Emily's having a panic attack. I need to take her home. I'm so sorry. Can you handle things there?" I stared at the message, feeling my careful composure crack just slightly. Everything okay? Ryan asked. Derek had to take Emily home, I said evenly. She's not feeling well. You've got to be kidding me, Ryan muttered. James wouldn't meet my eyes. She gets like this sometimes, anxiety. On Derek's birthday, Ryan's voice was sharp. During the dinner his girlfriend planned. It's not her fault if she's having a panic attack, James said defensively. I stood up, smoothing my dress. He'll be back, I said, though I didn't quite believe it. But an hour later, as the waiter cleared our plates and brought out the birthday cake I'd ordered, Derek's chair was still empty. Ryan tried calling him. No answer. I lit the candles anyway, took a photo of the cake, and sent it to Derek with a simple message. Hope Emily feels better. Happy birthday. When we left the restaurant, James mumbled an apology and hurried off to his car. Ryan walked me to mine, hands shoved in his pockets. That was really messed up, he said. It's fine. No, it's not. He looked angry. Emily does this all the time, and everyone just lets her because we're all too afraid to call her out on it. I unlocked my car door. What do you mean? Ryan hesitated, then seemed to make a decision. The panic attacks, the emergencies, they always happen when Derek's attention is on someone else, when he's on a date. When he's busy with school, when he's happy. You think she's faking. I think she's convinced herself they're real, he said carefully. But yeah, the timing is always convenient. I sat with that information, turning it over in my mind. Why hasn't anyone said anything? Because Derek won't hear it. He's known Emily since freshman year. She was there when his dad died. She held him together when he almost flunked out. In his mind, he owes her everything. The pieces were starting to fit together. What happened to his other girlfriends? I asked. Ryan leaned against my car. They all hit the same wall eventually. Emily would create some crisis. Derek would choose her, and the girlfriend would get fed up and leave. The longest relationship he had before you was 4 months. How long have Derek and I been together? Almost 3 months. So I was approaching the expiration date. Thanks for telling me this, I said quietly. Ryan met my eyes. You're different from the others, you don't fight with her, you don't make Derek choose. I thought maybe that would be enough, but she's escalating, I finished. He nodded. Yeah. I drove home in silence, my mind racing through everything I knew, everything I'd observed. Emily wasn't just in love with Derek. She was dependent on him, needed him to need her. Every girlfriend was a threat to that dynamic, so she eliminated them, not through direct confrontation, but through manufactured emergencies that proved she needed him more. And it had worked every single time. When I got back to my dorm, Rachel and Jess were still awake, sprawled across the common room with their laptops. How was the birthday dinner? Jess asked brightly. I set down my purse and collapsed onto the couch. Derek left halfway through to take Emily home. Are you serious? Rachel's laptop snapped shut. I told them everything. The panic attack, the timing, what Ryan had said. When I finished, Rachel was pacing. Okay, that's it, you need to dump him. This is actual insanity. She's not wrong, Jess added. This girl is manipulating him and he's letting her, you deserve better. I know, I said softly. They both stopped, surprised. You're going to break up with him, Rachel asked. Maybe, I don't know yet. What else is there to know? Jess demanded. He ditched you on his own birthday for another girl's fake panic attack. I need to know if he can see it, I said. If there's any part of him that knows what she's doing. And if there isn't, I looked at them both. Then you're right, I'll walk away. My phone buzzed. A text from Derek. I'm so sorry about tonight. Can I see you tomorrow? I need to explain. I typed back, sure, coffee at 10. His response was immediate. Thank you for understanding. You're incredible. I set my phone down and stared at the ceiling. Tomorrow would determine everything. The coffee shop was crowded when I arrived, the Sunday morning rush in full swing. Derek was already there, sitting in the back corner, 2 cups in front of him. He stood when he saw me, his expression equal parts guilty and exhausted. I ordered your usual, he said, gesturing to the vanilla latte. Thanks. We sat, and for a moment neither of us spoke. I'm really sorry about last night, he started. I know you put a lot of work into that dinner and Is Emily okay? I interrupted. He blinked. Yeah, she's fine now. It was pretty bad for a while, but she calmed down once I got her home. What triggered it? I don't know. She said she just felt overwhelmed suddenly. It happens sometimes. I took a sip of my coffee, choosing my words carefully. How often does it happen? The panic attacks, maybe once a month. They've been happening since sophomore year. And does she see anyone for them? A therapist? Derek shifted uncomfortably. She tried therapy for a while, but she didn't like it. Said the therapist didn't understand her. So what does she do when she has an attack? Usually she calls me, he admitted. I'm the only one who knows how to help her through them. I let that sit between us. Derek, I said gently, do you notice when they happen? What do you mean? The timing. When Emily has these panic attacks, his brow furrowed. I don't know, random times. Your birthday dinner, the night we were supposed to go to that concert, the weekend we planned to go hiking. Your mom's dinner party 2 weeks ago. Recognition flickered in his eyes, followed immediately by defensiveness. That's just coincidence. She can't control when anxiety hits. I'm not saying she's doing it on purpose, I said carefully. But I am asking you to consider whether there might be a pattern. What are you getting at, Sarah? I met his eyes. I think Emily needs more help than you can give her. Professional help. His jaw tightened. She tried therapy, it didn't work. One therapist didn't work, I corrected. That doesn't mean therapy doesn't work. Sometimes you have to try a few before you find the right fit. I can't force her to go. No, but you can encourage her. You can stop enabling the pattern. Enabling? His voice rose slightly, drawing a few glances from nearby tables. I'm helping my friend through a mental health crisis. That's not enabling, that's being there for someone. I kept my voice steady, calm. I'm not questioning whether you should support her. I'm asking whether the way you're supporting her is actually helping her get better. This is, he stopped, running a hand through his hair. This is exactly what I was afraid of. Every girlfriend I've had eventually gets jealous of Emily. I'm not jealous of Emily, I said quietly. I'm concerned for her, and for you. This dynamic isn't healthy for either of you. You don't understand our relationship. You're right, I don't. I set down my coffee cup, but I understand mine with you. And I need to know something, Derek. If Emily has a panic attack during every important moment in your life, are you always going to leave to take care of her? The question hung in the air between us. She needs me, he said finally. I know, but do you need her? His expression shifted, something uncomfortable crossing his face. It's not like that between us. Then what is it like? He was quiet for a long moment. When my dad died, I was a mess. I couldn't eat, couldn't sleep, barely made it to class. Emily was the one who sat with me every night, who made sure I didn't completely fall apart. She saved me, and you've been trying to save her ever since, I said softly. He looked up sharply. That's not. It's okay if it is, I interrupted. It makes sense. You feel like you owe her. But Derek, you can't spend your whole life repaying a debt that she's never asked you to clear. You don't know what you're talking about. I could see I was losing him, his defenses rising. I reached across the table, taking his hand. I care about you, a lot, and because I care about you, I need you to think about something. In the 3 months we've been together, how many plans have we made that didn't get interrupted by Emily? He pulled his hand back. That's not fair. She doesn't interrupt on purpose. Okay, I said, standing up. I can see this conversation isn't going anywhere right now. I'm going to go. Sarah, wait. I'm not breaking up with you, I said clearly. But I need you to think about what I said, really think about it. When you're ready to talk, call me. I left before he could respond, my heart pounding but my head clear. The walk back to my dorm was cold, the autumn air biting through my jacket. I'd played it as carefully as I could, but I wasn't sure it had been enough. Rachel and Jess were waiting when I got back, as I knew they would be. Well, Rachel demanded. I told them everything. When I finished, Jess looked worried. Do you think he'll actually think about it or just run straight to Emily? Probably both, I admitted. And if he chooses her, I sat down heavily on the couch, then at least I'll know I tried. My phone stayed silent for the rest of the day. No calls, no texts. By Monday morning, I'd convinced myself it was over between Derek and me. But when I walked into my 10 a.m. lecture, he was waiting outside the classroom. He looked like he hadn't slept, his hair messy, dark circles under his eyes. "Can we talk?" he asked. "I have class." "After class then, please." I studied his face, trying to read what I saw there. "Okay, after class." The 50 minutes of lecture dragged by. I couldn't focus on anything the professor said, too aware of Derek waiting in the hallway. When class finally ended, I found him sitting on a bench, staring at his phone. "Hey," I said quietly. He stood immediately. "Hey. Can we walk?" We fell into step together, heading toward the quad where the fall leaves created a carpet of red and gold. "I talked to Emily last night," he said finally. My stomach dropped. "Oh, I told her what you said, about the pattern, about therapy. How did she take it?" He let out a long breath. "Not well, she got really upset. Said I was choosing a girl I'd known for 3 months over someone who'd been there for years, that you were trying to turn me against her. And what do you think?" I asked carefully. "I think," he paused, struggling, "I think I've been seeing what I wanted to see and ignoring what I didn't." We stopped walking, standing under a large oak tree. "After you left the coffee shop, I went home and looked through my calendar. Every single date you mentioned, plus about a dozen others over the past 2 years. Big moments, important moments. And Emily had some kind of crisis during all of them." He looked at me, pain evident in his eyes. "My mom's 60th birthday party, my brother's wedding, the night I got accepted to grad school. Every single time Emily needed me and I went. Derek, I'm not done," he said, and there was something raw in his voice. "I called James and Ryan this morning, asked them to be honest with me. They told me things I didn't want to hear." I waited, letting him continue at his own pace. "Ryan said every girlfriend I've had has complained about Emily. Not because they were jealous, but because they could see something I couldn't. And James admitted that he thinks Emily's in love with me and has been for years." The words settled between us like stones. "What do you think?" I asked quietly. "I think I've been selfish," he said. "I needed Emily to need me 5 because it made me feel important, like I was doing something good, something noble. But I never stopped to ask whether I was actually helping her or just making us both more dependent on each other." He turned to face me fully. "I'm sorry, Sarah. For the birthday dinner, for all the times I chose her crisis over our plans, for not seeing what was right in front of me." I felt something loosen in my chest. "What are you going to do?" "I called Emily this morning," he said slowly. "Told her that I love her as a friend, but that she needs to find a therapist. That I can't be her only support system anymore." How did she react? She hung up on me. Then sent about 50 texts saying I was abandoning her, that she couldn't believe I'd do this, that she thought I cared about her. He showed me his phone. The messages were a mix of heartbreak and anger, each one more desperate than the last. I texted her back and said I do care, which is why I'm doing this. That I'll help her find resources, but that the late-night calls and emergency interruptions have to stop. "That must have been hard," I said. "It was the hardest thing I've done in a while," he admitted. "But I realized something. I've been so focused on saving Emily that I never gave her the chance to save herself. And in the process, I've hurt every person who tried to be with me." He took my hand. "I don't want to lose you, Sarah. You're the first person who called me out without making it about jealousy or control. You just wanted me to see the truth." I squeezed his hand. "I'm not trying to separate you from your friend. I just want you both to be healthy. I know, and I'm going to try to do better." We started walking again, his hand still in mine. "This isn't going to be easy," I warned. "Emily's not going to just accept this. She's going to push back hard." "I know," he said, "but I need to do this, for her, for me, and for us." I wanted to believe him. I wanted to think this was the turning point, that everything would get better from here. But I'd been watching Emily for 3 months, and I knew one thing for certain. She didn't give up without a fight. The first week was deceptively quiet. Emily didn't call Derek, didn't text him, didn't show up at his apartment unannounced. At first, Derek seemed relieved. Maybe she's actually taking this seriously, he said over dinner one night. Maybe she's finding other support. I didn't have the heart to tell him that this felt more like the calm before the storm. The second week, things started shifting. Emily began posting on social media constantly, sad quotes about betrayal and loneliness, photos of herself looking ethereal and melancholy. The comments section was always full of concerned friends asking if she was okay, and she'd respond with vague messages about going through something difficult. James called Derek twice that week, asking if he'd checked on Emily. She seems really down, James said during one call that Derek put on speaker while we studied together. I think she needs you, man. She has a therapist now, Derek said firmly. She needs to learn to lean on professionals, not just me. Since when do you not care about your friends? James's voice was sharp. Since I realized I was enabling her instead of helping her, Derek shot back. The call ended awkwardly. By the third week, Emily changed tactics. She started showing up places she knew Derek would be. His favorite coffee shop in the morning, the library where he studied, the gym where he worked out. Each time it seemed coincidental. Oh, I didn't know you'd be here, she'd say, looking surprised despite the fact that these had been Derek's regular spots for years. She never made a scene, never demanded his attention. Just appeared looking beautiful and fragile, reminding him of her presence. It's working on him, I told Rachel one night. I can see it. The guilt is eating at him. Then talk to him, Rachel said, and say what? Your friend is manipulating you by existing in public spaces. That makes me sound paranoid, but I was worried. Derek was quieter lately, more withdrawn. He second-guessed every decision to spend time with me instead of checking on Emily. What if she really is struggling? He'd ask. What if I'm being cruel? You told her you'd help her find resources, I'd remind him. You didn't abandon her. You set boundaries. Boundaries that are making her miserable, or boundaries that are forcing her to develop healthier coping mechanisms. He wanted to believe me. I could see it in his eyes. But doubt was creeping in. The breaking point came during week 4. Derek and I had plans to visit his mom for the weekend, a trip we'd planned for over a month. The night before we were supposed to leave, Emily called. Not Derek's phone, mine. I stared at the screen for a moment, watching her name flash. Answer it, Rachel said from across the room. Put it on speaker. I did. Hello, Sarah. Emily's voice was soft, vulnerable. I'm sorry to call you directly. I know this is weird. Is everything okay? Not really, she admitted. I've been trying to respect Derek's boundaries, but I really need to talk to someone, and I thought, maybe we could talk, girl to girl. It was a smart move, I had to admit. Going through me instead of Derek, positioning herself as reasonable, as someone trying to make things work. What did you want to talk about? I asked carefully. Can we meet? Tomorrow morning, maybe, just for coffee. I know you and Derek have plans this weekend, but this won't take long. Every instinct told me this was a trap. But refusing would make me look unreasonable, would give her ammunition to use against me. Okay, I said. Tomorrow at 9, the Starbucks on Main. Thank you, Sarah, really. This means a lot. She hung up. Rachel was already shaking her head. Whatever she's planning, it's not good. I know, I said, but if I don't go, she'll tell Derek I refuse to even talk to her. I'll look like the bad guy. So what are you going to do? I thought about it for a moment. I'm going to go, listen to whatever she has to say, and not react. She wants me to lose my temper, to give her something she can use. I'm not going to give her that. The next morning, I arrived at Starbucks at 8:55. Emily was already there, sitting at a corner table, looking perfectly put together in a soft blue sweater and jeans. Sarah, she said, standing as I approached. Thank you so much for coming. Of course, I said, sitting down across from her. She'd already ordered me a drink, my usual vanilla latte. A small gesture that was supposed to show thoughtfulness. but felt more like a demonstration of how well she knew Derek's life. "I've been doing a lot of thinking," Emily began, wrapping her hands around her own cup, "about everything that's happened, and I owe you an apology." That surprised me. "An apology? I know I haven't made things easy for you and Derek. I didn't realize how much I was leaning on him until he pointed it out." She looked down at her coffee. "I started therapy, like he suggested. My therapist helped me see that I've been using Derek as a crutch instead of dealing with my issues." "That's good," I said cautiously. "I'm glad therapy is helping." "It is," she said, meeting my eyes. "And part of what I'm learning is that I need to be honest about my feelings, even when it's uncomfortable." Here it comes, I thought. "The truth is," Emily continued, her voice soft and sincere, "I have feelings for Derek. I have for a long time." She said it so simply, so openly, that for a moment I was thrown off balance. "I never acted on them because I didn't want to risk our friendship," she went on. "But my therapist says that holding them in has been making me sabotage his relationships. Subconsciously, I didn't want him to be with anyone else." "Why are you telling me this?" I asked. "Because I want to be fair to you," she said. "You deserve to know the truth. And Derek deserves to make a choice with all the information." "A choice?" Emily's eyes were earnest, guileless. "I'm not going to pursue him while you're together. That wouldn't be right. But I wanted you to know where I stand, so that if you and Derek don't work out, you'll understand why I'm there." It was beautifully played. She was being honest, vulnerable, reasonable. Telling me the truth while simultaneously planting the seed of doubt. If I told Derek about this conversation, I'd look paranoid. Emily hadn't done anything wrong. She'd been honest about her feelings and promised not to act on them. If I didn't tell Derek, the secret would sit between us, creating distance. Either way, she won. "I appreciate your honesty," I said carefully, "but I don't think Derek sees you that way." "Maybe not," Emily said with a sad smile. "But I've known him longer. I've been there through everything." "You're still new in his life, Sarah, and new things don't always last." There it was. The knife slid in gently between the ribs. "I should go," I said, standing up. "Derek and I need to get on the road." "Of course, have a good trip." Emily's smile was perfectly pleasant. "Tell his mom I said hello." I walked out of the Starbucks feeling like I'd just gone 10 rounds, even though we'd barely exchanged more than pleasantries. Derek was waiting in his car outside my dorm, engine running, bags already packed. "Hey," he said as I climbed in. "Everything okay? You seem tense." "I'm fine," I said. "Just tired." I could tell him about Emily's confession. Let him know that his best friend was in love with him, that she'd essentially warned me I was temporary. But what would that accomplish? He'd feel guilty, caught between us. Or worse, he'd think I was trying to manipulate him to turn him against Emily. No, I thought. Emily had made her move. Now I needed to make mine. The drive to Derek's mom's house was quiet. Derek tried to make conversation a few times, asking about my classes, my roommates, but I was distracted, my mind churning. His mom lived in a small town about 2 hours away, in a comfortable ranch house with a garden out front. She opened the door before we even knocked, pulling Derek into a hug. "There's my boy," she said warmly. Then she turned to me. "And you must be Sarah. Derek has told me so much about you, Mrs." Chen was exactly how Derek had described her. Warm, observant, with laugh lines around her eyes and an air of quiet strength. We spent the afternoon helping her with yard work, then settled in for dinner. Over pot roast and vegetables, Mrs. Chen asked about school, our plans, our lives. She was easy to talk to, and I found myself relaxing for the first time all day. After dinner, Derek went to take out the trash, leaving me alone with his mom in the kitchen. "You're different from the others," she said quietly, handing me a dish to dry. "Derek's other girlfriends," she nodded. "Emily would come with him sometimes." I could always tell when a relationship was ending because Emily would get very present. I looked at her sharply. Mrs. Chen met my eyes. "I love Emily. She was there for Derek when his father died, and I'll always be grateful for that. but she's been in love with my son for years, and she's not subtle about protecting that territory. Derek doesn't see it, I said. No, he doesn't. Or he hasn't wanted to. She set down the dish she was washing. But I think he's starting to. You've been good for him, Sarah. He's happier than I've seen him in a long time, even with everything that's been happening. Especially because of it, she said firmly. You're not afraid to challenge him. To make him look at uncomfortable truths. That's what he needs. Derek came back in then, and the conversation shifted to lighter topics. But that night, lying in the guest room, I thought about what Mrs. Chen had said. Derek was starting to see the truth, but Emily was making her final play, and I needed to decide how to respond. I could fight for him directly, force him to choose between us. But that would make me just like every other girlfriend, and we both knew how those stories ended. Or I could trust that Derek would figure it out on his own, that the foundation we'd built was strong enough to withstand Emily's manipulation. It was a gamble. But then again, this whole relationship had been. The next morning, we headed back to campus. Derek seemed lighter, more relaxed. I'm glad we did this, he said, reaching over to take my hand. I needed the time away. Me too, I said. My phone buzzed. A text from Emily. Hope you had a good weekend. I meant what I said yesterday. I want us all to be happy. I deleted it without responding. When we got back to campus, Derek walked me to my dorm. I have something to tell you, he said, and my stomach dropped. Okay, I've been thinking a lot this weekend. About us, about Emily, about everything. Here it comes, I thought. He's choosing her. And I realized I've been trying to have it both ways, he continued. Trying to maintain this friendship with Emily exactly as it's always been, while also building something new with you. And that's not fair to anyone. I waited, barely breathing. I talked to Emily yesterday, he said. While you were helping my mom with the garden, I told her what she told you. About having feelings for me, my eyes widened. How did you? She texted me right after you left the coffee shop. Said she'd been honest with you and wanted me to know what she'd said. Another smart move on Emily's part. Control the narrative. What did you say to her? I asked. I told her I don't have those feelings for her, that I never have. And that if she can't accept me being in a relationship, we need to take a real break from our friendship. Derek, let me finish, he said gently. I also told her that I'm in love with you. The world seemed to stop. You what? I'm in love with you, Sarah, he repeated, taking both my hands. You came into my life and saw everything clearly, all the dysfunction I'd been ignoring. You didn't try to control me or manipulate me. You just showed me the truth and trusted me to make my own choices. What did Emily say? I asked. She hung up on me, he admitted. Then she sent a long text about how I was making a mistake, how I'd regret this, how she wouldn't be there when it all fell apart. And I blocked her number, he said simply. I'm done, Sarah. I'm done letting her control my life. I'm done putting her feelings before everyone else's, including my own. I searched his face, looking for doubt, for hesitation. Found only certainty. I love you too, I said. He kissed me then, right there on the steps of my dorm, and it felt like a beginning instead of an ending. Over the next few weeks, Emily tried everything. She showed up at Derek's apartment crying. He didn't answer the door. She sent mutual friends to plead her case. He politely but firmly told them to stay out of it. She posted heartbreaking messages on social media about losing her best friend. He didn't respond. James and Ryan were caught in the middle, but eventually they started to see it too. Ryan was the first to come around. I think you did the right thing, he told Derek over lunch one day when I was there. It was hard to watch, but Emily needed this wake-up call. James took longer, but even he eventually admitted that the dynamic had been unhealthy. 2 months later, I heard through the grapevine that Emily had started dating someone, a guy from her therapy group. Derek seemed relieved when he heard. Good for her, he said genuinely. I hope she's happy. And I believed him. 3 months after that, Derek and I ran into Emily on campus. She was with her new boyfriend, laughing at something he'd said. She saw us and hesitated for just a moment. Then she smiled and waved. "Derek, Sarah, hey!" We walked over. "Emily," Derek said warmly. "How are you?" "Good," she said, and she actually looked it. "Really good, this is Marcus." We made small talk for a few minutes. It was awkward but not hostile. As we walked away, Derek squeezed my hand. "Thank you," he said quietly. "For what?" "For not giving up on me, for seeing what I couldn't see, for being patient while I figured it out." "You did the hard work," I pointed out. "We did it together," he corrected. And that, I thought, was exactly right. A year later, Derek proposed to me at the same restaurant where I'd planned his birthday dinner. He'd reserved the same private room, had invited the same people, Ryan, James, and yes, Emily. But this time, Emily came with Marcus, her hand in his, her smile genuine. When Derek got down on one knee, she clapped as loud as anyone. After I said yes, after the champagne and the congratulations, Emily pulled me aside. "I owe you an apology," she said quietly. "For everything I put you through, the way I acted, the things I did, it wasn't fair to you or to Derek." "You were hurting," I said simply. "I was," she agreed, "but that doesn't excuse it. You could have made Derek choose, could have forced him to cut me out completely. Instead, you gave me space to figure out my own life. That took a lot of grace." "You're important to him," I said. "I never wanted to take that away." She smiled, and for the first time it didn't feel like a performance. "You're good for him. I can see that now." "I'm glad he found you." "I'm glad you found Marcus," I said, and I meant it. Looking back now, married to Derek for 2 years, I sometimes think about those early months. The careful navigation, the strategic patience, the moments when I wanted to scream or walk away but chose to stay calm instead. My friends still ask how I did it. How I dealt with Emily without losing my mind. The truth is simpler than they expect. I never tried to compete with her. I never made Derek choose. I just loved him honestly, trusted him to see the truth, and gave him space to make his own decisions. And in the end, that was enough. Emily still texts sometimes, usually about something funny she saw or to share news about her engagement to Marcus. Derek always smiles when he sees her name on his phone. But he doesn't drop everything to respond anymore, doesn't let her needs override everyone else's. He found balance. We found balance. And that perfect, protected girl that everyone orbited around. She found her own sun to orbit, which, I think, was what she needed all along.